This is CBN Newswatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. I want to begin this half hour with new evidence today in the deadly drug overdose at a New York daycare. 2 people, including the owner, now facing federal drug charges after investigators say 1 toddler died and several others were sickened from fentanyl poisoning. Federal authorities say fentanyl is the biggest threat facing the nation. Wendy Griffith has more in our top story.
Federal officials say a kilogram of fentanyl was stored on top of children's mats used for napping at the New York City daycare. That's enough to kill 500,000 people. The owner of Divino Nino Daycare in the Bronx and her alleged co-conspirator are facing federal charges in the death of a 1-year-old toddler.
They were running a drug operation from a daycare center. A daycare center. A place where children should be kept safe, not surrounded by a drug that could kill them in an instant.
After finding 4 children unresponsive, the owner allegedly delayed calling 911, making 3 other calls before seeking help. Police are searching for her husband, who fled the scene with 2 full shopping bags.
The defendant's alleged conduct that led to those poisonings is unconscionable. It's inexcusable.
The children rushed to a hospital and treated with Narcan, an opioid reversal drug. 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici did not survive. His father devastated.
I love him. I miss him. I want him back.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is up to 100 times more potent than morphine. CBN health reporter Lori Johnson says the drug Narcan can save lives.
This is the drug that stops an overdose while it is in process. You can get this Narcan at most pharmacies without a prescription. Most schools have it.
Pediatric deaths from opioids are skyrocketing. In 2018, 381 children died of opioid poisoning. In 2021, that number more than quadrupled nationwide. According to public records, the daycare passed a surprise inspection earlier this month. If the suspects are convicted on these federal charges, they could face 20 years to life in prison. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
I want to turn now to the president's high-stakes speech. World leaders gathered in New York this week for the UN General Assembly meeting. In his 3rd address to the body, President Joe Biden called on those present to remember the core principles of the UN Charter: preserve peace, prevent conflict, and alleviate human suffering. Biden making a case for U.S. leadership in all 3. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke reports.
The ongoing war in Ukraine took center stage as the main foreign policy issue the president addressed.
Russia believes that the world will grow weary and allow it to brutalize Ukraine without consequence. But I ask you this: if we abandon the core principles of the United States to appease an aggressor, can any member state in this body feel confident that they are protected?
Biden reiterated continued U.S. military and financial aid for Ukraine and called on other world leaders to ramp up their support. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also making an appeal.
And the goal of the present war against Ukraine is to turn our land, our people, our lives, our resources into a weapon against you, against the international rules-based order.
While the Biden administration's commitment to Ukraine remains steadfast, a recent CNN poll reports 51% of Americans surveyed believe the U.S. has done enough to help Ukraine in the fight against Russia, compared to 48% who want America to do more. Zelensky visits Capitol Hill and the White House this week as the GOP wrestles over a new budget bill, including another $24 billion for Ukraine. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is making no promises.
Is Zelensky elected to Congress? Is he our president? I don't think I have to commit anything. I have questions for him. Where's the accountability on the money we already spent? What is the plan for victory?
Foreign policy expert and senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, Michael O'Hanlon, tells CBN News that if the war continues for another year, debate will likely be about cutting back aid rather than cutting it off completely.
I think that might allow for a substantially reduced amount of American assistance by at least half, maybe 3/4, and still allow Ukraine to hold on to the 5/6 of its territory that it has today and protect its government, its capital, the majority of its people, most of its economy. For now, Ukraine deserves a fuller, fairer chance to take back its land.
Biden has a sideline meeting planned with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the first since Netanyahu returned to office. According to the White House, the two will discuss countering and deterring Iran, along with other issues focusing on the shared democratic values of the two countries. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
In Libya, the death toll rose from those devastating floods. It's now in the thousands. Search and rescue teams continue to recover bodies in the rubble of the city of Derna. Teams are also finding bodies washed ashore on the beach, while boats carrying divers search offshore. Derna is facing a shortage of emergency medical supplies due to damaged roads. Volunteers in Benghazi are sending relief aid, including food and water. 3 years ago, the world changed as Israel and Arab Gulf states signed what's known as the Abraham Accords. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl looks at the results of what's ahead.
In the Jewish religion, we have a blessing for celebrating historical events. Shechianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
On September 15, 2020, Israel signed agreements with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain on the White House lawn under then-President Trump. Within months, Sudan and Morocco also signed deals with Israel.
The Middle Eastern countries have entered a new age of collaboration, stability, prosperity, and peace as a result of those peace and normalization deals made by brave leaders.
Ahead of the anniversary, Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen inaugurated the state's permanent embassy in Manama, Bahrain.
The first thing that comes to mind when speaking about the relations between Israel and Bahrain is our remarkable potential in trade, security, people to people, and more. This provides us all with great optimism regarding the future and what we are going to achieve.
Cohen and his Bahraini counterpart discussed regional security issues, closer ties, and expanding the circle of peace.
Today, with the presence of Minister Eli Cohen, the Foreign Minister of Israel, we witness yet another remarkable milestone in the growing relationship between our two nations. This relationship, which seemed unimaginable just a few years ago, is a testament to our shared determination to promote harmony and cooperation.
In the last 3 years, Israel has signed more than 50 agreements with the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco.
And this year, we're looking at finishing the year over $3 billion in trade between UAE and Israel, which is, of course, the biggest market that we're working in right now. But you can see also Bahrain is really kicking off, and Morocco.
Jerusalem Deputy Mayor Fleur Hassan Nahum helped found the UAE Israel Business Council and the Gulf Israel Women's Forum.
And what's really also very interesting is that countries, Arab countries that we've had peace with, like Egypt and Jordan for years, Egypt, trade has tripled and Jordan trade has doubled, which just shows that the Abraham Accords have opened the gateway to a new Middle East, to really focusing on prosperity and mutual interests.
Hassan Nahum says Israel hopes with U.S. help, Saudi Arabia may soon join the Abraham Accords, and after that, others like Indonesia and Malaysia might also choose to join. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, from surveillance to rescue missions to warfare, drones are changing the game both on and off the battlefield. CBN News heads to an Air Force base to watch the future take flight. Stay with us. A new weapon is on the rise in modern warfare. U.S. Air Force leaders point to small drones as one of the top threats in combat. Mark Martin traveled to the top military site tasked with meeting this challenge. Here's his report from Grand Forks Air Force Base. It's in North Dakota.
Russia's war on Ukraine is bringing drone warfare front and center, showcasing how these unmanned aerial vehicles are used for surveillance and combat. This footage, reportedly released by Ukrainian special forces, appears to show a drone destroying a Russian armored vehicle and tank. Then there's actually drone-on-drone combat. This video depicts a drone dogfight, reportedly involving equipment used for surveillance by Ukrainian and Russian armed forces.
There's very little protection in the way of anti-drone measures.
And it's not just in the air. Here you see what appears to be a Ukrainian sea drone attacking a Russian tanker ship in the Black Sea. At North Dakota's Grand Forks Air Force Base, they're not taking the use of drones lightly. The 319th Reconnaissance Wing's small UAS program is the first in Air Combat Command to utilize such a program with operators from multiple units.
You don't have to go far to go look at what's happening around the world. Right? It is no secret what our adversaries are doing with these things.
Captain Matthew Kroll is the vice chairman for Small Unmanned Aerial Systems operations here.
These things can be weaponized and they can be used to hurt people and things. And unfortunately, what that means is we, as the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, have to go out there and counter that threat.
One drone that airmen train on is the quadcopter-style Skydio X-2D. The Security Forces unit employs it to defend the base through perimeter scans or identifying threats from the sky. That use can also transfer to overseas bases.
That goes even beyond into the deployed missions that we serve, where our commanders are constantly under threat from the outside of the wire threat. Those threats are immediately answered by this type of technology.
Senior Airman Tavi Efron operates the drone and says it's pretty impressive what they can do.
For instance, maybe active shooters. There's something locating an individual in that aspect to get eyes on so somebody else who is in part of that mission control can see what's going on and maybe redirect us in ways that we didn't think on the ground could be done.
Kroll says they also use it for aircraft recovery training and, if required, could fly it to survey a crash site.
You would see whatever the camera sees on the aircraft itself.
Members of the aircraft maintenance unit gave us a demo of the Skydio X-2D.
So I'm going to get a little bit of altitude here to get away from things. Change over to my waypoint mission. And then I'll just hit play. And then the aircraft does what it's already told to do.
Master Sergeant Matthew Roberts says using a system like this to survey and assess damages saves time, money, and resources.
It eliminates a lot of boots on the ground, in a sense, to do what we need to in a short time and capture what we need to without expending a lot of resources ahead of time to make the job and the mission happen quickly and safely.
There are actually 2 active-duty military missions involving unmanned aerial systems operating here at Grand Forks Air Force Base. In addition to the Skydio, which you already saw, another unit operates what's called the RQ-4, or Global Hawk. You're looking at the world's largest drone. The 348th Reconnaissance Squadron here flies the Global Hawk. The long-endurance aircraft can reach extremely high altitudes of 50 to 60,000 feet. Captain Mark Cochran remotely pilots the large-scale system that provides global day or night intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
The RQ-4 Global Hawk is a premier intelligence asset that is one of the only assets that's capable of giving such a long collection time without needing aerial refueling. And I feel like that's its biggest bring to any kind of AOR or combatant commander.
Brad Bowman of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies calls these drone systems fundamentally important to the U.S. military.
We really are, unfortunately, continue to be in an arms race against adversaries that are building drones. Obviously, Russia has drones. They're working with Iran on their drones. China is a major developer and exporter of drones. The country that has the most advanced drones, the right quantity of drones and employs them effectively, it's going to have life and death consequences on the battlefield.
And airmen at the Grand Forks Air Force Base are fully aware, describing this tech as a game changer in a time of war and another way Americans can feel safe. Mark Martin, CBN News, Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Still ahead, the first look at the newest film from the Irwin brothers. It's called Ordinary Angels. Stay with us. You're watching CBN Newswatch. Welcome back to CBN Newswatch. Filmmakers are pushing back the release of the Erwin brothers' next film, Ordinary Angels. It will now open in theaters February 23rd instead of next month. Looking ahead, we've got a preview of the true story of faith and commitment. A hairdresser decides to find help for a father desperate to save his critically ill daughter.
Almost stranger and more beautiful than fiction.
There's so much drama in the script that you're like, this can't be real. On page 1, I laughed out loud twice. And on page 2, I had tears.
It is a heartfelt movie in such a different way than you've ever seen before.
At the heart of it, it was a story about healing, how helping other people is often how we heal ourselves.
That just brings a lot of hope and goodness to your heart.
So you guys are responsible for I Can Only Imagine, Jesus Revolution, and now we have Ordinary Angels. Where is this scoring in relation and comparison?
Well, you know, what's beautiful about Ordinary Angels, so if you take Jesus Revolution, for example, so here's a film that showcased the power of the gospel, true story of a spiritual awakening, the spark and the birth of a spiritual awakening, and how the moment that Jesus comes into people's hearts, how that can transform lives. This is a true life story, as our films tend to be, true life stories, about how this community, how this church rallied together to save the life of this little girl who was in desperate need of a organ transplant.
Something about that little girl, she's just 5, and she already needs a liver transplant.
Showcasing what can happen when a church comes together and rallies together. And we want to see examples of the gospel in action.
Well, I say you have the church at the center of this story, but you also have the character that Hilary Swank plays, who I absolutely love.
Hi, Sharon, remember me?
Yes, ma'am.
So she's gonna help out if you're not so weak.
I met this woman. She's a mess.
Because she is not a woman of perfection, but she does do some amazing work. Tell me about that particular real-life woman.
Oh my goodness, Sharon Stevens is incredible.
I'm just a ticked-off hairdresser with a splitting headache. I'm good at plenty of things. Taking no for an answer ain't one of them.
We embark on journeys where it gets so difficult, it gets so hard, that we say, you know what, I think I'm done. I'm going to quit. I give up. This is too hard. There's too many obstacles. This is God telling me I don't think I should be doing this. And sometimes we use that as a crutch and as an easy way out. Sharon is the type of person that didn't necessarily like to take no for an answer.
We don't need to be running around worried about money and bills right now. I just want to be with my family.
That's about saying yes and then figuring out how.
Even the character of the dad, in light of what he goes through, I mean, he suffers loss. He loses his wife. Here he is on the verge now of losing his daughter. And I think one of the lines in the film that stood out to me was, well, that same prayer list that was praying for my wife, well, now my daughter's on that prayer list and they're praying for her. Well, I lost my wife. I think we all can identify with that kind of, what's up, God?
Yeah, how many times have we been in? I know for me, especially, it comes out in small groups and in our Bible studies where people are really struggling through certain events in their life, whether they're health related, job related, and it comes up where it's like, look, man, I pray, my faith is teetering.
I'm not comfortable with this. I'm her father. I'm supposed to be the one taking care of her.
You're gonna have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because this ain't about you, it's about your little girl.
I love that about this film, where that gives that example in a way that we can all relate to, and the power of not giving up in that moment when it was so easy to be able to give up, but we should continue to be faithful to God and not necessarily question what God's motives are in that moment, even though they didn't work out specifically for us in the previous situation.
Don't lose your faith over this.
What are you hoping people will do and churches will do when this is released?
Yeah, I'm hoping, and we're seeing some of this, churches getting activated where pastors are going, I need an example. I need something to be able to show to my congregation, to show them the heartbeat of their faith in Jesus in action. How can we do that? It's one thing to say the prayer, okay, well, I'm a Christian now, I'm going to church every Sunday. What can we do to make an impact make a difference in the lives of our community. And that's our hope, is to be able to put our beliefs in Christ in action. But where does that start? And give an example of where it starts.
I want you to know something. You're not just worthy, Sharon. You're a miracle.
Again, Ordinary Angels will now hit theaters everywhere in February. For more uplifting entertainment news, be sure to join us for an all-new edition of Studio 5. Tonight, we're going to take a look at the first film from a new studio created and funded by Christian movie fans, and a true story of an astronaut's dream come true from a million miles away. You can catch it all on the CBN News Channel at a new time tonight at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Stay with us. Your Wednesday Word is coming up next. We'll be right back. And welcome back to CBN Newswatch. Time now for your Wednesday Word. And today I want to leave you with this. The word is heart. I encourage you as the word encourages you. Straight from the pages of Scripture, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. And with that, I pray that that heart will pump the blood of truth through every single area of your life. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News. I just want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time as well as online. That address is cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We certainly would love to hear from you. Make this a terrific Tuesday and join us right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, God bless, and thank you for watching.